What's going on, everybody? My name is Bendy, and this is Disney Heroes. So today we are going to do the Arena Coliseum tip video for July-August. So we have a new month of Arena Coliseum, and the rules are kind of interesting. Nothing too crazy though. Nothing we haven't really seen before. They've been really liking disabling one disable. Disabling one disable. Sure, we'll go with that.
That'll do, pig. That'll do.
Disabling one disable on all of these week 1 rules. So this month they are doing that again. With Frozen effect being blocked, this means that Frozen is going to be completely useless. It will not be used, and this means that heroes that primarily depend on freeze to be fully effective, like Mr. Big, Elsa, Kristoff and Sven, Powerline, heroes like that, they're going to be significantly worse. Maybe not entirely useless, but definitely significantly worse than they would be otherwise. So that is definitely going to be your most noticeable change, I think, this month when you're Arena Coliseum fights. So I definitely recommend getting your freeze heroes off of your defenses, which I should probably do right now, actually. I don't have a freeze person on this line. Let me check my Coliseum. I must have freeze on my Coliseum lines. Damn, I didn't even do this yet. Alright, so let's see. I should probably get rid of this whole line. Alright, I'm gonna replace this line with something else here. Let's do... I can do Wasabi. I'll do Wasabi. Alright, cool. So we got that. Sorry, I just wanted to do that. So anyways, yeah, so Freeze is out this month. And then you'll also notice as far as the bonus points go, we have true damage dealt. So this is clearly meant to make it so that you use Shigo and Russell a lot more. The new heroes on the block that are really making waves, and everyone is talking about them right now. They are going to be really good this month. And then your other bonus point is going to be bonus points for each attack prevented due to blind. So what this means is it's not going to be damage dealt to blinded opponents. It's going to be how many basic attacks get blocked by your blinds. So if you don't know what blind does, it prevents your opponents from being able to use their basic attack. So the number of times that they do not use your basic attack due to being blinded, that is how many points you are going to get. I feel like this is going to be kind of an awkward thing to get points for, but I think as long as you have at least a blind person or two on your team, you should definitely be fine to get at least some of these points. But true damage is definitely going to be your best way to get bonus points this month, 100% other than just quick fighting. So anyways, if you look on my companion post that I always make on my Reddit, I will link it in the description and also in the comments of this video. I have posted a picture of every hero that freezes, which means every hero that is not going to freeze this month. Every hero that does true damage, and also every hero that does blind. So you can look at that on the companion post over on the Reddit, and I also include a little bit of extra information over there. I usually just summarize my video here over in the post, just like in writing, and then if I think of any other things off the top of my head after I record the video that I missed, I definitely post those on the Reddit post as well. So you could potentially see some just additional information and other helpful tips that I may have just missed while I was recording this right now. With all of that out of the way, let's just get right on into it. So we're going to start with Freeze. We kind of already talked about it a little bit. I am extremely excited to do this to make my life way easier. So we're going to just switch over to just showing the Freeze heroes. So these are the heroes that have Freeze somewhere on their kit or use Freeze in some sort of way. Now, primarily, you're going to see the heroes like Kristoff, Elsa, and Mr. Big, and then Honey Lemon using Freeze, but she doesn't actually have Freeze herself. And then you have Olaf, and then Wally has a decent amount of Freeze, as well as Merida and Powerline. So they are going to be significantly worse this month. I would go on and say that Elsa is probably going to be basically useless. Mr. Big still has some kind of use because he has armor raising and some other things, and scare. So you could potentially still use Mr. Big a little bit, but he's definitely not going to be nearly as good as he normally is. Same with Kristoff, although Kristoff is still going to have a lot of heal with Sven. So Kristoff still has some use, but overall, all of these freeze heroes that you see on this list are going to be significantly worse. Keep that in mind as you make your teams this month. So that's pretty much that. Not a whole lot to talk about with the freeze stuff. It's just completely disabled, so there's going to be 0 freezes this entire month. Let's move on to true damage. Now, everybody kind of already knows by now. We're going to do another filter to make this very exciting here. I'm so excited about this filter thing. It's beautiful. Alright, so everybody knows that Wasabi is pretty much the king of true damage. He does so much damage. He is a bit frail, so he can be pretty tough to keep alive sometimes. But Wasabi is definitely going to be your best bet for dealing the biggest true damage that you possibly can. And then you also have a decent amount of true damage on Ham as well. He has probably the second most true damage in the entire game. We'll get to Shatter in a minute, just so you know, before you scream at the TV that Shatter is lit. I'm getting to that, don't worry. Stitch has a decent amount. Randall, his first 7 basic attacks, if you have the Isma disc, are true damage. Evil Queen, I think her green skill does true damage. Maui has true damage on his white skill, so that could pair well with somebody. There is definitely a team out there I already know that can pair well with Shark Bite in order to make that deal a ton of damage. So that does true damage, which is super cool. So if you have Maui, you can totally make it work. I know Maui's not the strongest hero in the game, but I'm sure you can pair him with somebody to make Maui work. But yeah, so that's true damage for the most part. It's not a super common type of damage, but it is definitely extremely powerful because it ignores both armor and reality when it's doing its damage calculation, although it can't crit. So that's kind of the one downside of it, but that's okay. Ignoring both armor and reality makes it extremely hard to defend. And there isn't really any options for how to deal with true damage yet. I'm hoping they add something soon, because they're adding a lot of true damage lately, especially with Shatter having really just take over the game lately with both Russell and Shigo, who I will show right now, who I don't understand why they don't have Russell and Shigo in the true damage filter, just something random that I just noticed earlier today. But we're going to show the two of them right here. Russell and Kevin and Shigo are the 2 Shatter heroes in this game. Now, what Shatter does, if you do not know yet, it gets applied as a debuff to the enemies, and shattered enemies take 8% of their max HP as true damage each time they are dealt fantastic damage, which is insane. So this essentially means that if you have a team with Russell and Kevin and Shigo, any hero that does fantastic damage in the entire game is going to deal true damage for you. And this does tons of damage. It has pretty much just broken the game. I don't want to say broken the game, but it's kind of broken the game ever since it joined. It is a very ridiculously powerful ability. I really need to work on them a little bit more. I know they are at 1.82 million, but I definitely need to get them up to red at least a little bit. Maybe I'll do that in the next couple days, because we do have Work by the Network this weekend. But anyways, Shatter is ridiculous. So Russell and Kevin and Shigo are probably going to be the MVPs this month for you if you have them powered up. They are going to be ridiculous for your bonus points this month for the true damage. I think Shigo, definitely a very overhyped hero in my opinion. She is quite frail. She is kind of similar to Wasabi, but she does so much damage, and she also applies Shatter just like Russell does. So if you can keep Shigo alive, she will deal a ton of damage for you and a ton of true damage for you because of all the shattering that she does. I think she has even more Shatter than Russell does. It looks like she does. 3 of her skills have Shatter on them, so as long as you can keep Shigo alive, Shigo is going to be the queen for you this month for Arena Coliseum.
Yes, queen! Yes, queen! Yes, queen! Yes, queen!
So that is true damage for the most part. There isn't a ton of heroes that have true damage. So that is that with the true damage stuff. Like I said, on the Reddit post, I've listed every hero in the game that does true damage, and I will have a bunch of tips. Pretty much everything that I've said so far in this video, it'll be there. So, Russell and Kevin, Shigo, probably going to be the MVPs this month. I usually save the MVPs for the end of the video, but I'll say it now. They're definitely going to be the MVPs this month. Let's move on to Blind. Now, there's quite a few heroes that have Blind. There's 25 heroes, actually. I didn't actually know Angel had Blind. Very strange. It's on the friend disc that I don't use. I don't know. It's not the best friend disc, but either way, Angel has Blind, which I found very interesting. But anyways, Blind, like I said, what it does is it prevents your opponents from being able to use their basic attack for the duration of the blind. It is not the strongest disable. It's probably the weakest disable, to be honest, of all of them, but it can be effective in stopping opponents that depend very heavily on their basic damage, such as Jim Hawkins, Peter Pan, a lot of like Dash, a lot of heroes that just deal a lot of normal damage like a Study and things like that. A A lot of them depend a lot more on their basic damage than a lot of other heroes do, and Honey Lemon as well. So if you can stop opponents from being able to use their basic attacks, it's definitely pretty helpful against some opponents, but overall it's kind of the weakest disable in the entire game. But either way, there are definitely some ways you can take advantage of blind in order to be able to get yourself the bonus points as well as just create good teams in general. Now, the first one I want to talk about here is Honey Lemon. Now, Honey Lemon is kind of interesting here because due to freeze being disabled, she is not going to be able to take the full potential of her red skill and deal 200% more damage. However, if you have her paired with blind, she is still going to deal 50% more damage to enemies with her basic attacks. She also, with her purple skill, extends the duration of blinds by 13 seconds with her sticky mess and basic attacks.
Why am I sticky and naked? Did I miss something fun?
She's going to be extremely helpful for just being able to extend your blinds on your team. So Honey Lemon is still going to be quite powerful, I think, even without freeze being in the game. So Honey Lemon is definitely going to be still quite good. Similarly, you also have Powerline. Similar to Honey Lemon, is not going to be able to freeze, but he does have a lot of blind for a 13-second blind and a 12-second when he enters the wave. And he also takes 75% less damage from blinded enemies. So Powerline, very strong still, even without being able to freeze this month. I think he's going to be a great just like blind support. So if you pair him with, say, Mulan or Ian, who do a lot of damage and blind, I think you will be able to create a pretty strong blind team with something like that. Same with Bunsen and Beaker. Bunsen and Beaker have a surprising amount of blind, so they will be quite underrated, I think. Every single time that their beakers explode, they will be blinding enemies for 9 seconds. And if you look at their red skill, after a beaker has basic attacks 2 times, they automatically explode. So basically every 2 basic attacks that beakers do, they are going to be blinding for 9 seconds. It's pretty much just going to be a constant blind throughout the entire wave. So it's going to be super good for just racking up all these blinds on your opponents. So Bunsen and Beaker are going to be very underrated, I think. And then let's move on to Goofy. He's not the best tank. He's pretty tough to keep alive sometimes, but he has a lot of blind from his white skill, as well as he makes it so that his entire team deals up to 200% more damage to blinded enemies. So this could be a great damage dealing blind support if you want to pair Goofy with, like I said, Mulan, Ian, or other people that deal a lot of damage and blind. Or if you want to just pair him with a really strong damage dealer, he will make them also deal 200% more damage, even if they don't have blind themselves. So you could really pair Goofy with a lot of things in order to really rack up the blind and also be able to create a nice, really damage-heavy team. So there is that as well. And then I've noticed, I really don't know anything about Hankandori, but I saw that they actually have a ton of blind, both their white skill as well as their green skill. They both have pretty long blinds, which I found quite interesting. So if you have Hankandori powered up, they're going to be super good for getting the blinds off. And then also I noticed that they cleanse themselves of all debuffs. So this means that if you're facing opponents that have the blinds and stuff like that, they're just going to basically completely ignore them for the most part. And then also with their Rafiki disc, they also make it so that disabled enemies take a % more damage. I'm not sure what this maxes out at. I'm gonna guess, I don't know, like 75 or something like that more damage. So that is also going to be another strong pairing to have with blind or really any other disable, because that's going to be another thing this month is with freeze out, it's going to make silence and stun especially shine a lot more as disables. You're going to have to depend a lot more on the other disables. Since freeze is such a powerful disable, with it out of the game, it's going to make silence and stun a lot more important in your team building. If we look, can we turn on multiple? Okay, I can. Oh, I can select up to 6. All right, sorry, I didn't realize how the filter thing worked. But anyways, so you see, I see. Okay, hold on, I'm looking at this wrong here. So I'm just gonna briefly go into here. I'm not gonna get into too much detail on the silence and stun. I feel like I talk about who does silence and who does stun in a lot of videos, so I don't want to get too into it, but definitely silence and stun are gonna be very strong since freeze is out. That's really the main point that I wanted to make there. And then here's just a list of some heroes that silence as well, somewhere on the kit. Now, this doesn't tell you how good their silence is or anything like that. It just, all this filter does is tell you heroes that have basically just the word silence somewhere in their moveset. It doesn't really indicate who has good silence or anything like that. Like the Beast, I'm pretty sure his only silence is on his red skill, and it's not that strong of a silence, so just because he's here doesn't mean it's that great of a silence. Just keep that in mind as you're looking through these filters. Like going back to the freeze one really quick, I noticed that Honey Lemon is actually in this list of freezers, despite the fact that she does no freeze whatsoever. So I'm assuming she's in the blind section as well, but it's probably just because she has the word freeze in the description for this skill as well as the red skill. But yeah, so let's get back on track here a little bit. So we talked about freeze being disabled. We talked about who does true damage and shatter and how good shatter is going to be. And then we talked a little bit about blind and who some of the good blinders are going to be. So another couple more quick things is cleanse is also going to be quite good, as it almost always is, for just getting rid of the blinds that you're going to be facing, as well as the other disables that you're going to be facing. So the heroes that is there a cleanse filter? Doesn't look like it. Oh, here we go. Cleanse. All right, cool. So the cleanse heroes in this game are primarily, you have Fairy Godmother, which isn't here for some reason. I don't know how this filter works sometimes, but Fairy Godmother is probably the best cleanser with her, I think, purple skill. Cleanses all allies of debuffs and grants them 2 stacks of hardy, so that's going to be very helpful against the blind and the other disables that you're going to be facing. Then you also have Rapunzel on her red skill. You also have Powerline. Another reason that Powerline is going to be quite good this month. When Powerline enters the battle, all debuffs are cleared from himself and allies, so if you just happen to be facing some disables that get put onto your team very quick in the fight, Powerline can also help with that as well. Powerline's still going to be pretty valuable, I think, even despite the fact that he cannot freeze. Hank and Dory, they cleanse themselves of all debuffs, like I said. Kevin Flynn with his white skill also cleanses all debuffs. And also the fact that Kevin Flynn with his purple skill is immune to all disables makes it so that he cannot be blinded, he can't be silenced, charmed, or anything. So Kevin Flynn is going to be quite underrated as well. I feel like I mention him almost every single time, but Cleanse is extremely powerful of an ability, especially nowadays with silence and just generally freeze and disables running rampant right now, and Shatter also. This will also be able to get rid of the Shatter from your team as well, which is going to be huge. Potentially. There's not many heroes that cleanse, and some of them really only cleanse themselves, but definitely very strong. Another quick thing to bring up is Mad Hatter with his red skill makes your entire team immune to debuffs for the first 4 seconds. So it's 4 seconds isn't super long for this game, but it can definitely help you to prevent yourself from being blinded and stuff right in the beginning of the fight. So that's super helpful. And then also Mad Hatter is immune to all debuffs, and just like Kevin Flynn, he cannot be silenced or blinded or charmed or anything like that. Can't even be shattered either. So Mad Hatter and Kevin Flynn, I meant to bring it up on my tier list stream the other day, but the two of them have been making a huge comeback in the top ranks of play of Arena Coliseum the last like 3 or 4 months, mainly because of their immunity to debuffs, and a lot of people put them on the same team together. So just something to think about. And then the last thing I wanted to mention super quickly is just the fact that Eve does 100% more damage to disabled enemies. Not many people use Eve. She's not very strong, but she does do double the damage to blinded and silenced and charmed, frozen, but there is no freeze. But yeah, so she does double the damage to them. And yeah, I think that is pretty much all I wanted to talk about. I feel like I didn't have a ton to say here, but there really isn't a ton to talk about with this one. It's a pretty straightforward month of Arena Coliseum. Just know that freeze is disabled, so get freeze out of your defense lines. And then blind is going to be pretty underrated. It's not the strongest disable. It's probably the weakest one, to be honest. But you can definitely create some really cheeky teams around blind. As I hope I kind of mentioned a little bit in this video. And then obviously you're going to have true damage and shatter just wreaking havoc right now, even without it being one of the rules in Arena Coliseum. Russell and Kevin, Wasabi, and Shigo, they're going to be the 3 MVPs for sure this month. They are absolutely destroying this game, especially the Shatter ability. I think, why don't we just make Shatter ability the MVP of the month? Because Shatter is just ridiculous, and there's just no stopping it, really, except maybe some cleanses. But yeah, so I think that's going to be it. If you guys enjoyed this video, definitely give me a like, subscribe, comment. We are on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and I want to get there sooner than later. So if you want to help me out in more ways than you could ever realize, I will hugely appreciate anybody that drops a sub on my channel. It truly means a lot. So that is going to be it. Peace. 3, 4, 5. Fuck the Lord. Who go down?
何お前は